Ladies and germs, and welcome to another edition of Movie Review. I'm your host, Mad Dog. Happy Father's Day, by the way. So let's get it started. First, I wanted to acknowledge that this is a movie that's not out in theaters, so I'm not going to throw the disclaimer out there saying that if you haven't seen the movie to shut this down, but chances are you've probably seen it already. So let's just get started. So first thing, we start off with a elderly J. Edgar. John Edgar Hoover, and he's given a kind of an autobiography, I think, about his life, his, who he was, how the FBI started, whatnot, and it was pretty interesting, the movie itself was kind of lengthy, but being a biopic was still a lot better because there's factual stuff that's in it. Keep in mind, some things can be changed because of, the amount of time that they have to do the movie. Plus, Leonardo DiCaprio wanted to change some of the lines or sound more witty or make it more dramatic. They could do that. So, but for the most part, it was it looks like it was pretty factual. Right off the bat, I just got to tell you, kind of fucked me up because I did not know this. Come find out that so J. Edgar was a homo.
Man, 150, don't holler, my name shouldn't throw stones if you live in a glass house, and if you got a glass jaw, you should watch.
Yes, the creator of the FBI was a fag, and his love interest in this movie was, instead of a woman, was the Lone Ranger.
What's the deal? Yeah, what's the deal? Listen, little homie, when it rains, it pours.
So that was odd. But so they kind of go back in time to kind of show what he was explaining and how many difficulties he had, because each president that would go into office would question and scrutinize the reasoning to even have the FBI. Yeah, a lot of people have that kind of thought now too. They're like, well, what's the reasoning for having so many of these agencies, especially when they're doing stuff like being approved to do surveillance without warrants? That was one of the things that they talked about and when it happened. So obviously the FBI was involved in that. The other thing too was just started off, it wasn't the Federal Bureau, it was just the Investigations Bureau, and the person that was kind of calling the shots in that was the...
That means it's money. Nah, I don't know who got you.
So anyway, they kind of gave him a chance to be able to form his own assumptions and stuff like that, and start hiring staff. He was kind of a germaphobe, man. So the people that he wanted that to work for him had been well groomed, so no facial hair, wear a specific type of uniform, not like uniform, but like a suit, tie, no pinstripe. He was very, very adamant about the types of people he wanted involved. People he could trust, people who were well educated. And I think that's kind of the same thing that goes along with the criteria of being a Federal Bureau of Investigations agent, right? Nowadays, especially being in shape. There was twice in the movie they talked about him. He was gaining weight and he was feeling bummed about it, but everybody would tell him stuff like, "Oh, that's solid." He wasn't having it. It does show when he dies. pretty sad. It does show a weird date scene where he's taking his love interest to a horse race and holding his hand and all this stuff. It was just really awkward, you know. And I guess the other thing kind of involved in is the fact that it shows that he had a stuttering problem. I too had problems with my speech before, and had to do, you know, some classes and stuff like that about public speaking. And that's kind of how, you know, I kind of got over my phobia of speaking in public. Plus, being a musician myself, you know what I'm saying, and a hip hop artist, I had to speak in front of people and perform in front of people. So I kind of, you know, I kind of understand how his frustration must have been with that kind of stuff. They scrutinized him constantly about being on the news and having comic book depictions of him and information about people that took down on certain fugitives were. And all in all, it was a good movie. I gotta be honest though, I was so fucking exhausted I actually started drowsing off the movie. So make sure if you're gonna watch this movie to have your full attention to it, because there's gonna be a lot of stuff in there that, you know, it's gonna be harder to explain if you start dozing off and while you're watching it. So my thought, it was between from a scale from 1 to 10, I thought it was probably about a little biased. I guess I'd probably still give it about an 8. The timelines were great. I'm glad that they did it the way they did, and he talked about the dates and the times. He was very animate about making sure that those were, you know, factual, and about the crimes that was committed, and making sure that child abduction was a federal offense. Just really cool stuff. Really interesting movie. There's a girl that I thought he was gonna end up hooking up with. Ended up being his secretary, and for whatever reason, I guess he just kind of decided to let it go the other way. You know, he's trying to play for the other team, I guess. Anyway, hit me up, djrabies@gmail.com, and let me know what you think. All right, peace.